Welcome back to the latest episode of the Bench Mob ENT podcast. On this episode, we have none other than Chris Lindsey with us. We're going to recap the starting five, some of the biggest takeaways we had from the starting five, things of that nature, and we'll be talking about a little bit preview of the season to come, NBA award predictions, and a whole lot more in this episode. Y'all know every time Chris Lindsey here, it's a great episode. It's a great time. Chris Lindsey Hoop Mondays. Another installment being me. Let's go.
Bro, ça tue, ça blesse, ça flingue. Hey, bro.
Welcome back to another episode of the Bench Mob ENT podcast, the best sports podcast in New Jersey. As y'all heard on the intro, it's another great episode because we got Chris Lindsey Hoops in the building. Chris, how are you doing on this fine Sunday?
I'm solid, bro. I'm glad to be back. Took a little hiatus, season around the corner, so I'm locked in. I'm ready to go, bro. How you doing? You straight?
I'm doing great. Season is literally 2 days away. Tuesday night. I have that streaming service, so I'll be able to watch it.
Yeah, you got that one? For sure. Yeah, you got to see which one you got because they all everywhere. You know, you gotta fork out a lot of money to watch these games, man. It's kind of crazy, but it is what it is. I have to start sharing with some people. You know what I mean?
Sharing passwords, and there's a site that's back up. I'm not going to list it in here.
I keep that on the low ski.
Your 49ers played today?
Yeah, they're going to play at Sunday Night Football.
They play Sunday Night Football. All right, so I ain't got to talk about 49ers. Y'all dealing with injuries out the wazoo. But shout out to y'all. Y'all still playing competitive football.
4-2. I mean, it can't be bad with 4-2 with a backup quarterback. We got a lot of secondary guys in, but we still trying to make it work, bro. I don't know who we made mad, why our training staff is doing this, why the grass hate us. I don't know what it is, but last year they only won 6. They at 4 right now, so you know we hanging in there.
Hey, it'll be improved. It was just tough last week. I got Fred Warnerby, and I'm like, gosh, darn. They got Purdy coming back.
George Kittle's back today.
George Kittle's back. I'm like, all right, so, and then one is out, and it's probably the year. So it's like, dang.
Oh yeah, he's done. It's like you get something just to take something away. That's just what it's been. You know, you got to sacrifice. I don't know why we got to get rid of people to bring people in. We can't just be healthy, you know. But yeah, we're thugging it out, bro.
Facts. Speaking of sacrifice, ripple effects from James Harden leaving OKC. You can start it off. And again, I said it in the intro, we will be recapping on this episode. In case you skipped the intro for whatever reason, we will be recapping the starting 5 series season 2. One of the things that we both took away from it was the conversation where KD was like, yo, Bron was happy. Bron was real happy that Harden left. They was talking about, oh, I wish you good. Nah, they was happy because we was on their behinds. I don't cuss, so KD could do that. Yeah, if y'all saw it, yeah, I saw it. But what was for you, what comes to mind as a ripple effect from Harden leaving OKC?
Man, it's a couple of things. I think for sure they probably win at least 1 or 2 championships. So you might get that matchup again with the Miami Heat. You know what I mean? Maybe instead of it being the Warriors kind of down the line, honestly feel like they probably would have played the Thunder a couple more of those times had James Harden stayed. Because, you know, after he left, they were trying to find anybody to fill in that 6-man role, whether it was Kevin Martin, Jeremy Lamb, Reggie Jackson, certain guys like that. But it just never came up the same way. You know what I mean? Because James was so elite. And then another thing is, I don't think if he stays, all 3 of them eventually get a league MVP. Obviously, you know, KD got his, I believe, a year or 2 after, which was nice. And then Russ a couple years, and then James. But James is going to be a superstar regardless. You know what I mean? So how do you keep him as a 6-man while his game is trending up? I know a lot of people at the time were like, oh, maybe he could be like Manu Ginobili and all this. But you got to remember, Manu was already like a seasoned vet when he came to the States. He already had played and was winning in Argentina for most of the time. But James was on his way up. So I think that probably would have caused a lot of friction eventually if, you know, Coach Brooks would have been like, oh, well, just sit on the bench, even though you're averaging this much.
Man, I find it very interesting too with that aspect of Harden turning into who Harden was going to be, if they keep him, they have to start him. If they decided to keep him, they would have had to start him, move somebody else to the bench. My thing, I look at it too, is like, do we see Russ turn into a triple double machine if Harden stays? Because that's another facilitator right there. Somebody else that needs the balls in the ball. I said balls. Need the ball in their hands is Harden, Westbrook, KD, which he made it clear throughout the entire starting 5 series. If you didn't know before, he is about playing team ball. I think KD would have been fine because KD he stayed there with Russ the entire time. I think at most they get is maybe 1 or 2, but because we saw the dynamic of the Russell Westbrook aspect, who was also in ascension, and they kind of had a clashing of personalities and viewpoints of who the number one guy is, I think it gets halted probably at like 2, which we kind of see of some of these best teams in general. Egos sometimes eventually get in the way. I have something in mind for my career that doesn't align with this, i.e., Kobe. So I think at some point they would have broke apart anyway, just off of that alone, because they were all young too. So we're all young. I have this idea in my head for my career. It's not gonna happen if I'm still here with these 3. It's not gonna happen if so I think they break apart at some point. I think the other ripple effect I think about it is if they stay together and they get that ring, what does that do for Bron's legacy? Because I agree with KD. That team coming back the following season, I don't know if Miami gets it done again because Miami lost that first one. They got the experience, figured out, all right, this is what we need to do. Boom, 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 boom. Who's to say OKC doesn't have that same result? And you talking about KD, Russ, Harden, Ibaka, and I think Harden would have been the X factor that following year. They didn't have an answer for Harden. And I think he gets a ring to his name, and that changes his trajectory too. Because you had a ring to Russ' name, Harden name. We talk about them a lot differently, bro.
Yeah, I agree, bro. You're gonna talk about them a little bit different because they're gonna be in that upper echelon of their position because they were able to win. And Harden was really like the X factor in that Heat series when they played in 2012, but he didn't show up. That's how they were able to get so far. And that was a natural progression they were going. 2010, they started out, they lost in the first round, but pushed the eventual champs, the Lakers, to 6 games and almost forced the 7th game. The next year they get to the conference finals. Then the next year they get to the finals, and then it's all done. And this was before when championship windows were a little bit more wider at the time. They weren't shut so quick. So it's almost like they did it like how stuff happens now. It just kind of seems like, where the windows be so small. But it was fun for what they were able to do, but I do kind of wish they were able to prolong it a little bit more.
Facts. And I think also it kind of works out, obviously, for OKC now that we have 2020 hindsight and we see what happened years later. If they stay together, they don't get SGA. They're not going to be that bad, I feel, to even be in position to be a part of that trade for Paul George and Kawhi to be facilitated to the Clippers. SGA comes over there. So in the long run, obviously it worked out for them. They probably would have just got a ring sooner instead of having to wait up until last year to get a ring. When we talk about these big 3 teams, where the super teams, even if it's not a big 3, who comes to mind as some of the biggest disappointments and the super teams that did not live up to billing?
Obviously, the first one that everybody gonna pick is the 2021 Nets. You know what I mean? Guys were getting hurt. That was kind of like the thing, and other stuff that was kind of beyond their control in some ways. Shout out to Mayor Adams or whatever, like what was going on over there. But I think of them. They were fearing they were tearing the league up. Like, what I mean? All 3 of them, they were hard to guard, making a big season, mid-season trade like that, as we saw in starting 5, what it meant and how the dynamic was and how it changed a lot for them. So I think of the Nets. That same year, though, I also think of the 2021 Lakers. Remember, that was a team who won in the bubble, and they retooled, added Marc Gasol, They added Dennis Schroeder and some other key pieces. They still had Caruso. They still had KCP. They still had AD. And then, Solomon Hill, you can't say his name out here in LA because Solomon Hill, I feel bad for him, man. They really think that he kind of cursed Bron and kind of messed him up, you know what I mean, by landing on his foot, which was tough. It was just an unfortunate break, and he was never healthy moving on after that. Even when they played the Suns in the playoffs, the Lakers were favored, right? But they had fell so low with Braun being out that AD started getting hurt, and they're an older team, and then that's another one. But lastly, I would say the 2014 Brooklyn Nets. That was the team that added KG, Paul Pierce. They had Karolinko, Joe Johnson, Darren Williams. They had a squad. First year coach Jason Kidd, right? Because they fired Avery Johnson, who I think almost won almost 50 games the year before. And they
Mm-hmm.
get Jason Kidd and then only win 44. You know what I mean? And then they did all that to avoid, the Heat, just to play the Heat anyway. Like, you know what I mean? So it's just kind of crazy to see. But I just remember that Slam magazine cover that had J Kidd and Brooke Lopez and all those guys on there. And it was fun for the Nets. So unfortunately, in history, the Nets, they're able to acquire all this talent, but they're still the little bros in New York, but it's all good.
Yeah, they definitely the little bros in New York. I don't know when and if we'll ever see how it's looking right now too. They again might be in the conversation trying to get AJ, trying to get Cam, Darren Peterson, somebody. So it's not looking good over there in Brooklyn. The food good though. That's
Oh
one of the
yeah.
best.
Yeah, that's my second home, man. I spent some years in Brooklyn, in my early 20s. So, I know all about, the whole Brooklyn, Flatbush, all that stuff, man. I Atlantic. I used to be all up and down there, bro.
One of the teams that come to mind for me, Lakers, old squad, but hey, that was you were favored. You was expected to win. They made it to the finals, but they couldn't get it done because it was mainly chemistry issues. Couple injuries here and there, but it was mainly chemistry issues. And that team I'm talking about is the '03, I believe, '04 Lakers, Carmelo, Gary Payton, Kobe, Shaq. Shaq and Kobe was having their issues. Kobe and Malone was having their issues. Phil was having issues with the front office. It was a bunch of other stuff going on that prevented them from winning, and they still made it to the finals, which is it shows how talented this team was, how skilled this team was. Malone did miss a lot of the regular season, but he was there for the playoffs. They made it all the way to the final still with all of the circus surrounding it. They still made the finals. Another team that comes on mind, I'm gonna throw it back. Y'all know when y'all watch an episode with me and Chris Lindsay, we go and dig in the archives. That Rockets team that had Pippen, Hakeem, and Chuck, they didn't get it done either. And as much as Chuck, as Katie alluded in the as Katie alluded in the starting five, and Ant-Man had him winning an award as the top haters of 2024-25 season. Chuck ain't get it done. That was a team that should have won. I feel they should have won. You have those three, and they had a young Catino Mobley on that squad. First round exit, I think that's underwhelming. You should have at least second round. First round exit, they only win one game. I believe they lost to the Lakers, so I don't know about that one. I'll throw out another Lakers team. The 2013 Lakers with Nash and Dwight. Obviously, some injuries played in fact into that. Steve Nash and Dwight doing a regular season. Kobe ending off with the Achilles injury. I actually think if Kobe was there for the playoffs, it would have been a different result. But that was something that was supposed to work out too, especially Dwight. You know the pressure and the weight that comes with being a big for the Lakers. Are we going to get another great big? We had Andrew Bynum on that team. Also was Gasol, but we've had Andrew Bynum, we've had Shaq, we've had Kareem, we've had AD. At the time, Dwight did not live up to the billing being a part of that Lakers history. So that was another one for me. And I throw one more out because we can't talk about the Lakers and forget again the little brother of the city, just like the Nets. That
Mhm.
2015-16 Clippers squad, man. Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan, 53 wins that year. 53 wins, and they lose in the first round to a 44-win Portland Trailblazers. The whole era of Chris Paul being with the Clippers, they never made it past the first round. And they had some really, really good regular season teams, and it never panned out. So definitely got to throw the Clippers in there because not all the was on Chris Paul. Throw a little Doc Rivers in there, a little Blake, a little DeAndre not being able to do anything but catch a lob and play defense. Some people, not knocking down threes when need be, but still, they should have at least made it out the first round. That was wild to me. Doing my research, and I was like, wait, hold on. I remember how good they was, but they never made it out the first round.
And they were up 3-1 in that series too. And he's up 3-1.
And we see one of my biggest what ifs too when you talk about that bubble. What if the Clippers just locked in?
That's it. That's all you needed.
What if the Clippers locked in and we would have got we would have got first time ever in history. I think it would have ended up being, if I remember correctly, 2 LA teams in the finals, Lakers, Clippers, and we would have in COVID, the entire world. That would have been it was a good series, Lakers Heat, but imagine Lakers, Clippers, the storylines. Oh, we bring Kawhi over here. Kawhi's gonna get more rings than Bron in LA. It would have been crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy, bro. Just even being out here, like just seeing, it was low key kind of divided. You know what I mean? Like it was a lot of people that were like, "Oh, Kawhi didn't go to the Lakers because he don't like Bron," and then that whole narrative comes around, and it's street lights versus city lights or something like that they was trying to pull. You know what I mean? It was just a lot going on, and then the Lakers had lost to them opening night. Then they lost to them on Christmas. So they were already down 0-2. Unfortunately, after Kobe passed, that was the next game when they got back. So they canceled that one. Then they played again in March, right before the shutdown on that Sunday, with the Clippers home, and the Lakers won. It was like a playoff. It was playoff intensity. That was one of the best games of the year. And then, then they played the opening night or resume game in the bubble again, and the Lakers won. So technically they were like 2-2. You know what I mean? So who was going to get that next game? But it was that was a fun time. That's another letdown team. I got one more that I was thinking of before we move on. The 98 Lakers. So if you think back, the 98 Lakers, you have 4 All-Stars, right? Kobe was coming off the bench. You had Del Harris, Shaq, Nick, and you also had Eddie Jones. So they had the talent. At the time, remember the Bulls, they were still dominating. And remember, this is Mike's last year. So think of everything we've seen from The Last Dance that was being mentioned about the team and the media, all the up and down, the scrutiny, they breaking up. And the Lakers were the young guys that were coming up. And no one had an answer for Shaquille. And then you add the Kobe Jordan kind of scenario in there too. And the Lakers just couldn't make it. But again, like I've said before on the show, instead of Brian Russell, that could have been Kobe getting pushed for that shot. You know what I mean? I don't know. We might look at Kobe a little different if he got his ankles broken for game to get Mike number 6. You know what I mean? But it was crazy. That's another team I thought of.
Hey, you mentioned during that time of the bubble how Kawhi didn't come because he didn't like Bron and that whole narrative. A lot of people don't like Bron. I mean, Stephen A just went on another interview expressing his dislike for Bron. Tyrese Halliburton mentioned in the starting 5, some of the hills in the NBA. And for me, I wasn't a big wrestler fan watching up. I know what he was talking about when he said hill. I'm glad they broke down it. Oh, villains, bad guys. All right, cool, because I didn't know what he was talking about. Obviously, I think it's safe to say all time players that, fans and other players love to hate, Bron is on that list for sure. Who else comes to mind for you as some of the top 5 hills, villains, whatever word people want to use?
I got a couple of them, but I'm gonna keep it in the modern game, for the audience and everything. But Draymond is always going to be one that's in there. Even KD, as they alluded to on starting 5. Pat Bev is another one that a lot of people just don't like, but that's the edge that he has to play that hard to, get into the league. Another one I had is Russell Westbrook, but that hate mainly came when he came to the Lakers, right? Because everything was about his lowlights and what he wasn't doing, and you get the LeBron sector of people highlighting what he's not doing. It was just a lot, you know what I mean? And then lastly, I would say Paul George. A lot of people make Paul George a villain, and he tries to lean into it a little bit, and then it kind of falters. It's just because he at times could say a little bit too much, as if he's not like self-aware of what's going on or certain things that happen. But you know, you can say whatever you want, but you got to back it up. But there's too many clips of Paul George saying things, and then that makes fans feel a different way. So I would say those guys: Draymond, KD, Pat Bev, Russ, and PG.
And to your Pat Bev point, bro, like he had to do that to get into the league and to stay in the league. People don't realize, I think, as fans, like there has to be a certain edge that you have to play with when you're under 6 feet, when you're 6'1" at most, when you're a smaller guard. Ain't many smaller guards out there. So for you to be on the court, play major minutes, you have to have an edge to you because one of the main knocks on having a small guard on your team is they gonna get picked on defense. Chris Paul, same thing. That's on a lot of people's list. I don't agree with hitting people in the nuts. That part I don't agree with, but everything
No.
else I get it. He needs to he needs to do it to have an impact. And I think he's a 9-time all defensive team player. So it's obviously, you know what I'm saying, you got to be a pest on some level. You mentioned Russ, and I'm glad you brought that up because there's been some conversation. He's back in the league, which I think is great. I don't like the fit because it's the Sacramento Kings, a terrible ran organization, and it's a lot of mouths to feed on that roster. It could be really well or it could go really bad. But one of the things that came out is Pat Bub's rant saying that Russ really got a bad rep from being in LA. And we saw he ain't even kids is lined up. He didn't even sign the Lakers jersey. So he might agree with him. That time in LA, right? Do you agree that being in LA for the Lakers, playing with Bron actually hurt his career from there going forward?
I think in some ways, like it did, right? Because you're almost deemed as the savior, right? And historically, we've seen how Braun has played with a solid two guard or a point guard. If you win, Braun gonna get the credit. If you mess up, it's your fault, right? And that's a hard thing for players to have to deal with, especially a player that magnitude. And almost before he got there, LeBron almost like courted Russ, right, to recruit him to come to LA. Remember the picture that they had of him doing a little handshake that he posted? I think it was around that same time in 2021, 22. You know, Russ is coming off a triple double season in Washington. So then you start kind of putting things together like, okay, he just had a triple double. He could do that here. He's home. He's in LA. So everybody was optimistic. And then Russ was always Russ, right? A little bit out of control at times, not the best decision maker in certain ways. And then maybe a little bit rigid in his thinking by not wanting to change his play style. Then you add in the coach. And then they put him in a position that wasn't successful for his skill set. You know what I mean? He had highlights here and there, but then it's just going to be overshadowed by the blunders, right? Or things that didn't happen the best way. And that's just an unfortunate part of one, being in LA with a big market, being at home is another thing, and then playing with Braun. Because, you know, Braun wasn't at the point physically anymore to where he can cover over your discrepancies as a player, as we've seen him do historically for years with certain players. So the fact that they thought they could kind of like piece it together and do that was kind of fell kind of flat on his face. And then if you think about it, the Lakers were trying to catch Brooklyn, right? Like we saw just the toe on the line, but it's like, man, if they have Harden and Kyrie and KD back and they're running it back again, they're going to be unstoppable. So I almost felt like the Lakers kind of panicked a little bit and was like, well, let's just get a big three of our own, right? By that time, we're only, a year or two out of the super team era. So those were like the last two. And that's where KD and Braun dominated during their time was, hey, you come here, play with us, and we'll figure out the rest. But now you see that just don't work anymore. So with Russ being in LA, it kind of messed him up, which is why you see him going from, the Clippers to, the Nuggets and then, the Kings. But one thing Russ ain't doing it, he ain't leaving the Pacific time zone. That's it. He's staying right in the Pacific time zone. He only got a couple teams left to play on that's over here. So hopefully he's able to stick it out with the Kings and able to figure it out. But yeah, it should be interesting for him. But yeah, being in LA really kind of messed him up a little bit, unfortunately.
Only thing I'll add to that, because I think everything you said was facts, is players don't be, I be thinking, I don't think they sometimes factor in like, yo, you play with Bron, this could be the result. Because in this situation, to your point, Bron basically recruited him over there, le GM, and then when le GM picks the wrong starting five, when the GM picks the wrong center to play with and it don't work out, we kind of don't hear much said about Bron. Like, there's not much said about Bron about the Russ era. And I think I'm not going to say I'm in Russ's head to understand, but I'm pretty sure felt some type of way that when they were saying all this stuff, even once he left and whatnot, Bron never stepped up. Bron never defended him, which we've seen throughout Bron's career. Typically, he don't D Wade got shipped out of there. Like he ruthless. He don't say, "Hey, nah, it just didn't work out." For not even a politically correct answer to be like, it didn't work out for this reason or that reason. Hey, y'all think what y'all think about Russ. It is what it is. When you recruited the man, which I think I think that part. I don't know if I would like LeBron's leadership style. Um, with that part, I don't know if I go to the extent of KD's leadership style, where he was saying it's kind of like a by committee leadership style. I think it should be one or two voices, not in the aspect of, hey, you do this and you stand in a corner, but it needs to be one or two voices that everybody is following. Everybody understands when KD says this, all right, we running with this. Sometimes, which we've seen, not everybody has the same IQ, so everybody can't have a voice. Everybody, everybody can't be leading. So I think it's a good medium between KD leadership style and LeBron leadership style of, hey, I'll get rid of you tomorrow. Two totally different approaches. And you see that even with Golden State Warriors. Steph isn't per se the vocal leader. But when Steph speak, y'all gonna listen. Draymond is more so the vocal leader, but we know that the actual top dog, top leader there would be Steph. Steph, obviously, I don't think there needs to be a conversation or debate if Steph is the greatest shooter of all time. But in the episode, what was shown was Harden becoming the number two all time in 3-pointers made. For you, outside of Steph, who are your top five shooters?
Top five shooters outside of Steph. I got Harden, got Dame, Ray Allen, Trae Young, and Reggie Miller. Say those guys.
Mine, I got KD,
Hmm.
3, mid, fade away, off dribble, however you want it. He can shoot in a myriad of ways. Throw on my list, Harden, of course. We talked about it in the episode, the step back. Larry Bird. I think Larry Bird could score, and we're not just talking about scoring, but shooting wise specifically. Midi, 3. One of the most iconic, memorable 3-point contests coming into the locker room. Like, all right, which one of y'all coming in? Which one of y'all coming in second?
He talking big money. That's fire.
And then followed it up. So Larry Bird has to be on my list. Clay, he don't get it much off the dribble, but to be able to get buckets with 11 dribbles, 12 dribbles, shooting, and his stroke and how smooth it looks, that's the if you teaching a kid how to shoot, you having them watch Clay. You having them watch who else is on my list? Ray Allen. Those are the people that you're having watch. So that's my list right there. Clay, Ray Allen, and my honorable mention would be on that list is Dame, because I think a lot of people kind of associate long range shooting with Steph, but I think I saw Bill Simmons put out a chart of like the most made in each area over like the last decade. The parking lot was Dame. Each spot shooting from the parking lot was Dame. It wasn't Steph. Dame from shooting from the parking lot. That was the person that actually was the top in each area from the parking lot. So I do think Dame does not get enough love when we talk about greatest shooters from far out. Dame on that list. Steph's the greatest shooter, but we can't forget Dame. For you, right? You've seen season 1 and season 2. Which one was the better season? Season 1 or 2 for the starting five?
That's tough. I mean, we had different personalities, different type of players, different parts of their career that they're in. You know, they gave us the heavy hitters right from the jump. You know what I mean? Which was great, and I love that. I like season 2 a little bit more. You know what I mean? Obviously, we only got 8 episodes. I wish we would have could have got 10, just like the previous season. But a lot of the guys didn't go deep in the playoffs, so it's not much you really could kind of do in that way. But yeah, I like season 2. I like the development of the stories. Each guy, you know, they took time to build things. Each guy had a little bit of drama surrounding them, which was nice. You know, it was real natural. You know, we already know how the story had ended with the finals and everything, but to see all the things that everyone was going through was really nice. So yeah, I would say season 2, probably my favorite.
That's the only thing I don't like about the starting five is that last episode, last couple episodes, because you know what the result is. I would wish at some point maybe they transition where we're seeing this during the season somehow, or we get like the first four at All Star break, and then the last four at the end of the season, something of that sort, because it kind of that last episode kind of takes the air out the room essentially, because it's like, all right, we know OKC won. What am I really watching on this last episode? We already saw firsthand on social media the parade and all of this stuff. So that's my only thing with the starting five. Outside of that, great. I love the storytelling aspect of it. If we're looking at season 3, obviously we know they're recording starting Tuesday. For you, who comes to mind that you want to see on the next season of starting five?
Oh man, that's gonna be kind of tough to see. I would like to see Kyrie Irving. I think he'll be a
Mm.
fun one to watch. I think Kyrie will be a good one. You know, just using his insight, how he's recovering from injury and all his philanthropy and how he's growing his family and the stuff that he's doing over there in Dallas and, you know, and back home, like, you know, where he's from and just all his work that he does. I think that would be one person that I really would like to see is Kyrie, like, you know, twisty fingers, you know, for Kai, like, you know, straight up.
I think that's a great answer, honestly. Kyrie, like you said, they already gave us a lot of the big hitters. I was glad to see KD this season because I think it also gave a more human human aspect to KD for fans that just they just hate KD. After watching this, I mean, if you love basketball, KD is every hooper's favorite hooper. He just won a ball. Like everybody's dream growing up. Obviously, some wanted the other stuff that came with it, but those that really love basketball is just like, I just want to play ball. Like my job is to wake up and get better at basketball every day. I don't know how you don't like a player like that. That actually, when we see some players, not gonna name no names, but we see some players that have 10, 15-year careers, never could shoot, never developed a left hand, never developed a fadeaway, never develop a package of how to score inside the paint, left shoulder, over the right shoulder. You got somebody that actually takes it serious and wants to get better. I don't know how on the basketball side, maybe in the personal side and his decision to go to Golden State and him having a burner account and all that extra stuff, but specifically basketball, I don't know how you don't love KD as a basketball player. I don't I don't know how you would not love that man as a basketball player.
And that's all
Love
that
the kid.
matters. And that's all that matters too, right? Like that's literally all that matters. Like all the other stuff, people could do what they want, you know, and it's nice that these documentaries humanize these guys, you know what I mean? And then for some, it can give them more insight. Others, it can make them more likable, or you can watch things about them and not like them even more, right? But to see the prep work, and you remember even in the Olympic documentary that Netflix had, you saw KD getting choked up. He's talking about how much basketball means to him because he used it as a beacon to save his life. Like even things his mom was saying, or, you know, like, man, this is really our life. Like I never would have thought this would have been our life that we have right now. you living in mansions and doing that stuff, but they always keep it humble, right? They keep everything exactly the same. They don't let it get to them, but they use it to their advantage and to benefit and to maximize it. So like when you're older and you get rid of all the fluff and everything like that, KD is really like that on and off the court to me. You know what I mean?
A name I throw out there that I'd love to see just because he seems as if he's just here for a check so he don't get fined. But Nikola, I love to see Nikola on there to again the humanized aspect to see what this Joker do after when he not ball. What is he doing at home? Is he watching horse races? Is he watching a camera of his horses back at home in Denver? Like, what does this man like to do outside of basketball? You see his personality because we see it here and there when we get the behind the scenes or at All-Star break. Oh, he got some personality. Love to be able to see that for a full season, and always would love to see the Brody for one season, but being that it's a part of LeBron's production company, I don't think we'll ever see that. But
yeah, we're not gonna see that. And then another thing I will add too, what I really like when it comes to things like this, like you see players using more long form content themselves, right? Whether they're vlogging themselves or they have someone carrying a camera, following them throughout the off season or throughout the season, and they give fans almost an exclusive look, kind of like what we see with Starting Five, where it's not a big production, but they can still get it, edit it, have somebody do it, and you can get a 10-minute video, an 8-minute video, or something that just goes on Instagram that's 3 minutes just to show how they're doing and what's kind of going on. So you're starting to see, especially like in the off season on YouTube, I started to see a lot of players really showing that long form content. And that's in football and basketball. Not baseball, I haven't tapped in much, but football and basketball, those two mainly, like you're starting to see like guys like Fred VanVleet, Dame Lillard putting out 6-minute episodes, like, and just breaking them down in his recovery process. Kyrie Irving has something coming out. So I think it's more commonplace to see it, to where with Starting Five, it's like for some people, they may feel, well, I'm not going to watch because I already watched my favorite play on his social media already. So what else more are they going to show me that I haven't seen yet? But you'll be surprised. Like, you know what I mean? Oh, another player, I think, Devin Booker. I would like to see Book on there. I think he gives a lot, you know what I mean, here and there. But I think if he was to be in a dynamic like that, I think that he would be another good player. Like, so, yeah, Kyrie, Book, I think they would be some solid pieces to put on there.
And shout out to Uncut Remy, my boy Zach. That is, speaking of the camera people, that's the person that works for Tyrese Halliburton. We've had him on the show twice. Grew up with him, West Orange. Love his story. The fact that he now, like, if y'all ever have seen the first couple episodes we had him on, for him now to be with Tyrese Halliburton at All-Star, at the finals. Love his story. Shout out to Uncut Remy. Great content too. A lot of stuff that y'all see on Tyrese Halliburton's Instagram is Uncut Remy. So shout out to Uncut Remy. Looking ahead to this season that starts Tuesday, speaking of, Tyrese is not going to play this year. Who are the top 5 contenders for you in the East?
In the East, I don't even know if there's 5 of them. Honestly, I just got it's a couple of them. I would say I have 2 in mind, and 3 maybe, but 2 for sure. The Knicks and the Cavs. I think they can be like the guys who are going to take it there, obviously with everyone being hurt. But still, I wouldn't count out Boston. I wouldn't say to be contender, but to still be in the mix somehow due to the system, how they're coached, just the players, the personnel that they still have. They still got great players. We saw Anthony Simons be, like Dame out there, like, you know what I mean? But I'm sure Joe Mazzulla is going to tap into another potential part for Anthony, you know what I mean, to really see what he can do. Because if you got Peyton and you got guys like Derek, but Jalen, that's still some solid guys, like, you know what I mean? So I feel like they're always going to be competitive. They're going to win some ball games, and they might shock a lot of people. You never know, especially with JT running and dunking and cutting and doing all type of stuff. You never know. Maybe March, April, depending on where the season is, you might see JT come up. You never know. So I got those. I guess I could say those 3 in the East. In the West, Denver, OKC, and the Clippers. I think those are the 3 in the West. I didn't put the Rockets just yet because they lost Fred. Most teams that are new together, it gets kind of difficult, you know, trying to win in year one. You know what I mean? Obviously, we see the deal that KD took, which is team friendly, that can help them to acquire whatever other pieces they need. But winning in that first year is very difficult. So, you know, I got them. But of course, Denver, I love what they did with their team. They're always going to be in the mix. And then Oklahoma, defending champions, they just got even better, another year of experience under their belt. And then the Clippers, they have the roster. I know they're a little bit older, but they pushed the Nuggets to the brink last year. And even like we saw revisited in starting five, they are a rebound away from Aaron Gordon dunking that to potentially moving on, which would have been tough. You know what I mean? So now you add some more pieces and some guys. They just got to stay healthy. That's it for the Clippers. But yeah, I would say those are like the contenders that I have this year.
Hey, on that play too, Harden talked about, I'm nowhere near athletic to get that. No, Harden, let's keep it a stack. You were supposed to box out. That's
Box out.
back to fundamentals, whether it was an air ball or not. Let's say it did hit the rim and it went straight up. He's getting that over your head because you didn't box out. Own it, Harden. Own it. Just like
Man on
Durant said.
body, man on body.
Maybe he'll be honest, with the starting five. He wasn't. He wasn't honest about why he didn't go into detail why he left Brooklyn. He didn't go into detail at all. But it was good to see that there was some other stuff going on. I wasn't aware that his mom was going through what she was going through during that time. So that's a good. And while the starting five is good, to add to that for the East, I agree with everybody said the Knicks and the Cavs. I'll throw in the mix just because the East I feel is wide open, and of course the Celtics, which I've said before, I think Celtics are still gonna be a top 16, maybe 5. JT comes back, would be the Knicks. It would just be the epitome of being a Knicks fan. This should be the year that y'all supposed to win, and JT comes back. And I could just see it. I could just see they end up matched up against each other and they lose to the Celtics. Like I could see that happening. The Celtics, though, it's a question mark really with their big situation, but I'm sure they'll figure it out. And, we got trade deadline. It's a bunch of stuff that can happen. So if they're in position to compete in the East, they might make a move and Simons might be out of there. So I think the Celtics is definitely a team to watch, but the Magic could be in that conversation as well. In Atlanta, they have the roster to do so, and it's the best year to probably do it, especially Trae Young's gonna have a little extra motivation. They did not give him that contract extension, which I think that's the front office saying, all right, we surrounded you with some dogs. This is the best roster you've had in Atlanta. Can we actually win with you as the number one person? If not, we need to figure out who we need to get in here. If they win, I think is, and I'm not talking about a championship because I don't think they win the championship, but if they have a deep playoff run at least, it's a win-win for Trae because regardless, if they didn't pay me now, cool. I'll go out, I'll prove y'all wrong. We make a deep playoff run. My bag is deeper now. You're gonna have to pay. I'm getting more money. If not, I'm going elsewhere where I could be appreciated. On the West side, I'll throw in that mix. I agree, Nuggets, Clippers, and you said OKC, of course, OKC. I think the Mavs is in that conversation because Kyrie is scheduled to come back. Well, we don't know exactly when, but he is believed to come back sooner than JT is supposed to come back. So he might be back sooner, which I think it only works out. And I think that could be a sleeper team because Coop at point don't look too bad. Coop is pretty easy, but Cooper Flag, we're going to get to our award selections right after this, but Cooper Flag, AD, they're going to be a top 5 defensive team, I feel. They're going to be a top 5 defensive team. They are so deep. Clay, when you feel good, you look good, you play good. He got Meg on his shoulder. he looked like a brand new man.
Yeah, he got waves now. He didn't cut his hair down. He walking a little different. You know what I mean? He ain't even worried about the 4 rings. You know what I'm saying? Clay doing it big. I like that. I actually like Dallas. Like, that was someone I had on the fence right there, but I wasn't sure. But you never know. It's health. That's obviously that's the thing with everybody. But for them, it's going to be health. They have a very deep roster, very talented roster. What's the output you're going to get from D'Lo? Right? Starting out, I know honeymoon D'Lo always is good. Everything is cool in the beginning, and then when some stuff start happening, then he might disappear. But Cooper, his development is going to be phenomenal playing with guys like that, which is going to be really good. So that's going to be a plus. I actually like that a lot.
Yeah, and they got Exum, and I think they got another point guard on the roster too, which I think they're aware of. Like, all right, we're going to do this by rotation and committee because we've seen this episode with D'Lo. We've seen this movie before. So just in case you want some nonsense, we got some people that are going to be able to hold it down. And I think they already seen it to a little bit of a degree. Is like Coop gonna play a little point guard. So we're gonna be safeguard. We cover all our bases in case D'Lo is on some nonsense. We even gonna mix Coop at the point just to be safe till Kyrie gets back. Not this year, next year. Definitely contender team. Definitely a team that's gonna be scary hours. And I'll throw in my Lakers in the mix. Luca might be in that conversation. Not might be. He'll be in the conversation. I don't know if he wins. I'm not gonna give away my pick yet, but he's gonna be in that conversation for MVP. Especially with Braun being out that first month. We might see 32, 10, 12 Luca that first month. We might
so basically like Joker numbers, right? That's what you kind of might see. Speaking of this, sidebar, I know this wasn't on the rundown, but I want to ask you a question. I want to ask you a question. I had put this on Threads, I think last week or earlier in the week. And I asked a question about the championships, right? Mm-hmm. Like, has it been watered down in this parity era and with these aprons? And since there's no dynasties, is winning one ring just enough for the elite stars of the league? Because there's only a couple of them, right? We don't have to worry about Bron and Steph and K. They're always going to be mentioned because that's who they are, but we got to be realistic. More than likely, they're done winning theirs. They gave us 10, 15 years of that, right? And then the next tier is like the guys like Giannis, right? Giannis got his out the way. He's done. So is there pressure for him to win another one? Because sometimes one is enough, right? And then you go down. Giannis and Joel are in that same kind of, class right there, right? Joel doesn't have his yet. I'm sure there's a couple other people. Then you go down to the next tier. I was thinking the Lucas, the Shays, the JTs. JT and Shay got theirs out the way. Luka hasn't gotten his yet. And then you go down to the next tier. Then you got the other guys that are coming, the ants of the world. Well, where do they stand in getting that? So it's like, is one just enough for guys? It seemed like it's kind of lost. Like, we don't see repeats anymore, right? Or that sustained dominance. So just getting one, like, I feel like some people want Giannis to win another one, but I feel like he can rest knowing that he just got one. Same with Joker. I got one. I'm always going to be in the conversation, but one is enough. What you think about that?
I think it depends on the title too, because I think each ring is weighed differently. So that Giannis ring, that's like 2 or 3, especially with Milwaukee. Mm-hmm. Same if, like, let's say, which I don't think is gonna happen. No disrespect. I'm sorry, Miles. I'm sorry, Jared, my Knicks fans that I know. If somehow by a miracle that the Knicks win the championship this year, because it would be a miracle, they would need Jesus Christ on their side, literally, for them to win. Because I don't think anybody in the East is messing with anybody in the West. But if somehow, Jesus didn't come back yet and they win, that ring is like 4 or 5 rings in New York. That ring is weighed.
That's a fact.
Differently.
That's
the
a fact.
OKC ring, you look at the entirety of the season and their dominance, that ring is weighed differently. So I think we've done a better job as an NBA community in the discourse of it doesn't have to be 2, 3, 4, 5. You want them to have the hunger to still get another one, but if not, because of that second apron, because if you got one in this era where you don't really get to have the same team the following year outside of OKC, and especially if you get one in this era with OKC, pretty much can have the same roster for the next 3 to 5 years.
You see what I'm saying? It's gonna weigh a lot. Same with Boston, right? Like their ring weighed a lot. Like, you know what I mean? So I think we're in a new space where ring culture is slowly kind of fading away
Thank
due to
God.
parody, right? Due to parody. We were spoiled for Michael Jordan spoiled us, Magic and Bird, Kobe, Shaq, Braun, and those guys. They all spoiled us. But now, now we're out of the super team era, the big three. Then we kind of ushered our way into another way. So, I just had to ask, I want to see what your thoughts were on that, man. I meant to send that earlier, but it just hit me right now. I'm like, you know what? I feel like that was a good question for us to ask. And I got a lot of feedback on there. So surprisingly, a lot of people said one is enough in this era, which is kind of like what we alluded to when all things considered, right? Like if it wasn't no sacred apron and you could just pile up guys and you only win one, then it's kind of like, all right, bro, like what's
Yeah,
up?
that's where it's different. Like that's where we
Yeah.
early in the show we had the conversation of the big threes, the super teams that didn't work out. That's why. Also, was like you're a failure. You didn't have any issues where you had to worry about a second apron. You could have KD, Kyrie on the same scene with Harden and keep it going because they was together for 4 years. You could have that set up to be there, and there was no second apron. There wasn't an issue concerning that. You could bring back that same team. It was up to the organization if they wanted to bring back the roster, i.e., letting Harden walk. It was an organizational thing where you look at it like, all right, you didn't want to ring and you could blame the organization. Now, with the second apron, every single year, you got to maximize even more that year. So definitely, I agree. One now, but we see that with the ebbs and flows of different, which we've done. We've done those throwback episodes. Each era is different. Jordan would have, if he only had one, then that would, that would have.
It's not flying because the guys before him won multiple, which was the thing when Kobe came and Shaq came in. You gotta win more than three. And it's like, man, three? I'll give you three in a row, and then I'll see what we're gonna do after that. But you had to, that was able to sit at that table. Now the tables are a little bit smaller, right? Where it's like, okay, these are the thrones, you got your Russells and all those guys up there, Jordan, Bird, Magic, Kobe, Shaq, those guys get to sit there. But then LeBron, Steph, Clay, the four and up club, they sit over there. The three and below, they sit over there. The two and up, you see, it just rotates. You know what I mean? Then you start sprinkling in all the, I got there one time, you know what I mean? And I got mine and I performed like crazy. You know what I mean? Or you get guys who just got to one finals appearance and lost. Right? That's another thing that you could factor in.
Whatever era you're in, though, to get to the finals is a extremely difficult thing. And like they said in the series, and like we know, some luck involved. It's some health. It's a lot. The best teams don't always make it, and the best teams don't always win.
Right.
I get, oh yeah, this team is the best team in the world because they won. I get that. That makes sense, but in some cases, the Lakers Pistons series, y'all were the better team for that series, but the better team as a whole was the Lakers. They just didn't show up and perform up into standards. Same thing. Was it KD? Was it KD or Harden was talking about? I think it was Harden or KD, or it might have been both of them, alluding to like, yo, it's not that I'm missing. No, it's SGA. It's not that. It's nothing that you're doing. It's nothing
missed,
that
bro.
you're doing. I just missed. Nothing you're doing. That's how I view some of these finals. It wasn't so much, yes, the Pistons played great defense.
They won. It's like we lost.
Lakers.
We lost. It's like we lost.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? That's what it is. It's like, and then at the end of the day, people you have to play who's in front of you, right? You still got to make shots. You still got to execute. As we saw in Game 7, they were down at halftime. OKC was because TJ McConnell turned into Michael Jordan. You can still lose, bro. Like, because that's how deep these rosters are and the talent level is in the NBA, where a role guy like him, like when they were playing the Knicks, Aaron Nesmith shot them back into that game. Who would have thought Aaron Nesmith would be knocking down contested fadeaway threes, and they're calling for him to get the ball, and he makes every single one of them. That's just the skill level in the league. So especially nowadays, it's so hard to win a championship. And I think I think we got spoiled for so long because of LeBron going back over and over again. And I'm sure years from now, people are going to look back and see him going to 8 straight and being like, that is ridiculous. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's not even real. Whether he won or not, I think some people just have to realize just getting there nowadays is enough. Like, you know what I mean? Legacy wise, it's like, so this is why the guys like Ant, Jalen Brunson, they're kind of in that same tier. Now it's your guys' turn. Ja, if their team ever gets it together, you're in that space. Because I mean, think about it, the Grizzlies' window is closed already, more or less, right? It's shut. You know what I mean? For now, but we don't know what's going to happen. But I'm just saying,
Nah, I think it's closed for good. Unless,
it's GG's, it's GG's.
hey, Memphis is in a place. It's not a free agent destination. If they somehow trade to get somebody, are they going to want to sign back? Ja isn't always healthy. It's too many other factors concerning Memphis. I think that'll be something that we talk about 10 years from now, 20 years from now. Yo, Ja never won, but Ja was a dog. That's the conversation I think we'll be having regarding Memphis. I personally don't see it happening.
Straight up,
Looking at the awards, we'll start off with obviously the most important one that everybody wants to talk about, MVP. Who you got at MVP this year?
got SGA.
Back to back.
Mm-hmm. Like a deluxe.
For me, I'm going with, I think, because of the additions that they made in the offseason, this is the best Nuggets roster I think Jokic has been on. I can see Nikola getting another one, and this might be his best opportunity to get another one because after this, I think it'll be, they not going, we've seen it with Jordan, we've seen it with, James, LeBron, Kobe. We've seen it with some of the greats. They're not, voter fatigue is a real thing. Voter fatigue is a real thing in the NBA. That is. Other sports, if it seems like they got no problem giving you 6, 7 of them, dog. WNBA, Asia Wilson. I don't think that's the last one Asia's gonna get.
Nah.
NBA, once you hit a certain number, all right. I don't care. You have to go 82-0 for us to give it to you. Like, I think this is the last chance for Jokic to get another one. At the same time, this being the best roster that the Nuggets have had, mixed in with the cut, if they're able to keep pace with OKC, I think OKC and them should be in that back and forth of who has the number 1 seed, number 2 seed. If they could keep pace with them, and he puts up his historic numbers as usual, I think Jokic messes around and gets it. But I do like SGA as the answer because I feel they'll be a top team, top dominant team again. They ain't lose nobody.
No.
Brought back the exact same roster. They didn't lose nobody. Most improved player.
Most improved. Ooh, that one's a tough one. I think I'm gonna go Cade Cunningham. I think he could just take it to another level. I know he already was, balling last year, but I think he could take it to another level this year. So I'm gonna put Cade in there.
I'm gonna put in there Amen Thompson. I think with Fred going out, before Fred went out, I would have probably not had him on the list. But with Fred VanVleet going out, bigger role, which should then also increase numbers. The numbers will look good. He'll be in a winning situation. And I think if they're going to get to the finals or be viewed as a top contender at the end of the season, it's going to have to be that he took a step forward. KD is not going to be able to do this all by his own. Sengun, he'll do what he's supposed to do, I feel. I think the X factor for them is, will Amen Thompson take that leap on the offensive end? Can you knock down 15 to 20 feet consistently for us? We don't even need you to be JJ Redick or Steph from 3. Can you give me a midi consistently? So I think he'll be able to do that. I don't know about the mid consistently, but I think we'll see much improved play with the bigger role that he has to have with Fred being out. Who will be your 6th man of the year?
I had a couple in mind, but I'm gonna roll with Jordan Clarkson. I think Clarkson is gonna do good for the Knicks. I think he's gonna do solid for them. He's gonna be a fan favorite. You're gonna see him on all the sites with the outfits and everything. He's gonna turn up in New York for sure. The crowd gonna love him as long as he knocks down his shots, stays out of foul trouble, plays hard for Coach Brown. I think he'll be just fine over there in New York. So I got him winning 6th man of the year, Jordan Clarkson.
I'm gonna go with CP3. I think CP3 will mess around and get 6th man of the year. He'll be the oldest player to ever do it. The last person to do it was Jay Crawford at 36. We know Chris Paul is 40. So I think Chris Paul will get it done. He'll be a part of, as we were talking about, the Clippers are going to be a top 3-4 team in the West.
Yeah.
50. I can see a 50+ win team. Chris Paul leading that. second unit. He'll be able to put up good numbers, I feel, still. We saw that he had still of a defensive impact as well on that winning team, and I think he'll be a huge factor, especially when we talk about players like Kawhi possibly being injured and Harden possibly being injured. You have a fail safe to fall back on in Chris Paul, the point guard. So DPOY. I mean, I think we had the same answer, but
Let's see. For me, I got Amen Thompson.
oh, okay, no, we got a different answer.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Okay.
switch it up. I'm gonna go with a guard. I think Amen really could lock in this year. Outside of his offensive duties, I think he really gonna be that point of attack defender that they're gonna need for the Rockets this year. You know what I'm saying? So I got Amen taking that one home if their record reflects that too.
If the record reflects it too, to your point, he's gonna have to. The record has to play a factor in it because I think they'll be better than the Spurs. I just seen on every daggone website and article I've read of people that are voters are already putting in Wemby. So it's going to have to be amen. And the Rockets have a top 3-4 record. They're a top 5 defensive team. Cause I already
Steals
feel
gotta be crazy. Yeah, for
I
sure.
feel they're already they got his name etched in there. I feel the NBA already made the award. It already has
Yeah,
Victor's name on it.
it
Somebody's
does.
gonna have to somebody's gonna have to make us have to choose somebody else. It's gonna have to happen. If Victor stays healthy, they already got the award in the box already with a label to ship to this man's house already. That's how I see it. I think Amen
Yeah.
could win it, but we talk about narratives in the NBA. They crowning this man to win 5, 6 of them things anyway. So
Whew. Yeah,
as long as Vic is in the league, y'all going the rest of the league, y'all have to do something to tackle to get the DPOY.
that's it.
Uh,
He just gotta stay. He's gotta stay healthy. He gotta get that threshold, and the team gotta be winning. They at least have to be in the playoffs. I think even if he's in a play-in, I think they'll probably give it to him. Still, it just got to be astronomical. Not even for Wemby, but yeah.
yeah. For you, we got 2 more left. Rookie of the year,
Rookie of the year, Cooper.
Cooper. All right. On to the next one. Coach of the year.
I got JB Bickerstaff in Detroit.
My coach of the year, funny enough, never has won coach of the year, and I feel he is a top 2 coach in the league. You could switch it between him and Spo. Tyronn Lue has never won
Really?
coach of the year
Huh.
with those
Interesting.
Clippers teams, with Kawhi
Yeah.
playing 20, 25 games, Paul George, James
Yeah.
Harden, all of the personalities he had to deal with and still have had success. Yeah, I think this is the year Tyronn Lue finally gets coach of the year, especially if we see something end up happening with a suspension possibly to Kawhi, because it's kind of quiet on that now of what's going on with that.
It's Kawhi. It's Kawhi. We gotta get
It's
Pablo on
Kawhi.
here, and we gotta get Pablo and see if he can get into it. You know what I mean, and see what it is.
Yeah, we gotta see if especially, and I think even if Kawhi gets suspended, because Ty Lue's such a good coach, man, they still 50+1 team this year with that
Come on.
roster and with Ty Lue as the coach. Kawhi gets suspended, y'all could cut him, tear up the contract. They still gonna be a top.
He always out that much anyway, so it's kind of like they just make it. They
gonna
have an
be
edge in the schedule that he gonna be between the 50-55 range. It's gonna be scattered about. Now, if it's a concurrent 50, okay, that's a little different. But if they give him like 25, up and down, he could play a little bit, then for sure. But other than that, I don't think so, champ.
Facts, but y'all already know the vibes. He had the BME podcast. That was another great episode. That's a wrap. Y'all know the vibes. If you stay ready, you ain't gotta get ready. Bench
Stay
Mob, we
ready,
out.
stay ready, stay ready, stay ready with it.
Peace.
You already
Hey,
know.
if y'all want
Peace.
merch, hit the DM. I'll send the merch. We let you know the prices and all that. Chris Lindsey Hoops.
My guy.